Welcome to the Weird and Witchy Shit podcast. I'm Kristy, your basic witch guide, here to make the mystical a little bit more approachable. In today's astrology lesson, we are learning all about the planets and what they mean in your natal chart. Now that's us finished an episode for every single zodiac sign, I thought it was time to dive into other aspects of your natal chart. So today we are going to be learning all about the planets and what they mean and what they represent. In a future episode, I'm going to be covering the houses. And at the end of the month, I'm going to have a video on YouTube that's going to be all about how to actually read a natal chart. I think at some point down the line as well, I will do an individual episode for each planet and really kind of deep dive into the meaning, the mythology, what different placements mean, what it means when it's in different zodiac signs and different houses, but that would be like a real deep dive. So today I just wanted to talk about the planets and just give you that kind of like baseline knowledge, so that then when we go into doing the how to read like a natal chart video, you kind of are equipped with most of the tools that you're going to need to like really understand what we're looking at. So first of all, what do the planets actually mean in your chart? So the planets represent different elements of yourself, or different elements of what the chart is being read for. So you can think about it as like the what is being expressed here through the planets. It'll make a little bit more sense once we get into it. So the sign and the house that the planets are in, along with the aspects and such, will influence how that part of you is being expressed and what areas of your life it's being expressed in. But we will piece all that together at another point. Sorry, I'm like all over the place today, man. But with the planets, we're really just focusing on what is it that's being expressed. What part of you, or part of whatever the natal chart is for, is being talked about here. So we have inner planets, also known as personal planets. These are planets that orbit closer to the Earth, so they tend to influence us on a more personal level, and they really affect maybe who we are as a person, or very specific details of our life or day-to-day life. They also tend to orbit the sun at a much quicker pace than the outer planets, which are known as generational planets. So the generational planets symbolise big overarching themes in our life or in society as a whole, because they take years, decades, or even centuries to return to their initial position, or the position when you were born, say. Like, we all know about a Saturn return, which happens like every 29, 30 years, and everybody's like, oh my god, Saturn return is going to like fuck my whole life up, what the fuck? So as you can see, Saturn talks about like a whole chunk of your life. If you think of like the ages between 0 and 30, it's when like Saturn returns to the exact point when you were born. Think how much you change in 30 years, think how much you change in like 60 years, and so on and so forth. And then we have planets like Pluto, which are even further away, and Pluto takes like 240 odd years to return to the position that it was in when you were born. So you're not going to experience it in this lifetime anyway, unless maybe you're that what's that guy that's doing like all the mad shit, like he's like taking all the vitamins and he's like doing all the crazy stuff because he like wants to live forever. And yeah, maybe he'll see his Pluto return, who knows. So the personal planets or inner planets are the Sun, the Moon, Mercury and Venus. And the outer planets are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. So let's start with the Sun. The Sun is one of the most important placements in your chart, and most people will at least know what sign the Sun was in when they were born. Like me, I'm a Virgo sun sign. The Sun was in the constellation of Virgo when I was born. So the Sun changes sign, as we know, round about every month, and every year on your birthday it returns to the position that it was when you were born. The sun is thought to be a more masculine energy, so that kind of doing, action orientated energy. Again, masculine, feminine, nothing to do with male and female. You can also think of it as being a positive polarity instead. And the sun rules over the zodiac sign of Leo. So if you already know the zodiac signs really well, then it's going to be quite easy for you to understand the energy of the sun. And if you do want to brush up on your zodiac knowledge, like I said, I do have an episode for every single sign of the zodiac. And I think if you understand Leo really well, then it's really easy to also understand the same kind of energy of the sun very well, because they're quite similar to each other. So each planet has something called a dignity. And what the dignity really is just where the planet likes to be, where it rules, where it's a little bit more uncomfortable, where it's going to need a little bit more work if you have a planet in that placement. So the sun has its domicile in Leo. This means that it has rulership in that sign. The sun is in its detriment in Aquarius, meaning that when it's in Aquarius, it's not super comfy here. It's exalted in Aries, meaning that it's very happy and it can work quite well when it's within this placement. And it has its fall in Libra, meaning that this could be a potential, quotation marks, weak spot or an area that could potentially need a little bit more work. Again, it's not like a pure, like, awful thing if you're like a Libra sun sign. It doesn't mean that you're like doomed. I know many Libras who have very delightful, happy lives. It's fine. So the sun represents your life force energy, your ego, your vitality, and can thought of as being your spirit or the true essence of you, who you are at your core. So just with knowing a sun sign, you already get to know quite a lot about the person. The sun is the giver of life, the giver of warmth and of light. So that placement in your chart can show you a lot about your life essence and what warmth and light really looks like for you. The things that like is like your true like kind of like spark or passion of who you are. The sun is of course super important in any chart and super important in general because the way everything in our solar system revolves around the sun, everything in your chart is going to also revolve around the sun. I like to think of your sun sign as the canvas that all of the other planets and placements are painted onto, which is also why two people can have the same sun sign but be completely different personalities, because just because they've got the same canvas doesn't mean they're having the same thing painted onto that canvas. The moon. So the moon is the closest celestial body to Earth, so it impacts us on quite a profound level. As we know, the moon can affect the oceans and even the nature of people round about more energetically charged times, such as a full moon. The moon changes zodiac sign about every 2.5 days, and it cycles through all 12 signs of the zodiac in about 28 days, beginning each new moon cycle with a new moon. Moon phases can give more information in, if you're getting like really, really deep into a birth chart, it can give like a little bit more context about a person. But for the purposes of this episode, we're not going to concentrate too much on moon phases and stuff like that. Maybe I probably will do a video on it at some point. I will add it to my list, because it's not only really useful when reading a birth chart, but it's also really useful to know a little bit about all the different phases if you want to do any like moon magic or manifestation or anything like that. So the moon is thought to be a very feminine sign, and it rules over the zodiac sign of Cancer, and it's associated with the water element. So the moon, as we says, has its domicile in Cancer, it's in its detriment in Capricorn, it's exalted in Taurus, and it's in fall in Scorpio. So the moon represents our inner world and our emotions, also our subconscious mind. It's also connected to transformation, intuition and magic. So when it comes to understanding the planets and really anything in astrology, you really want to be thinking about how things energetically show up. in the symbolism of that thing more than taking things like extremely literally. So really thinking about energy and symbolism here. So the moon controls water. The water element is associated with our emotions. Cancer is the nurturer. So through that, we can see that the moon shows us how we like to be nurtured and how we like to be loved and what we need to feel safe. The moon is also in a constant state of transformation and growing and shrinking, and it's also a symbol of the divine feminine. So this can tell us that the moon is often associated with intuition and mysticism as well. Again, we're just going over like very brief meanings here. Like I will do a deep dive episode for every one of the planets because there really is like a lot that could be said. And I think if we like dive into the mythology and stuff as well, it really helps to cement that in your mind, or it does for me anyway. Like I always connect with a good story. So I think I will add that to my upcoming podcast episodes because I think it would be really useful. So Mercury is small, but he is mighty and he is speedy. So he will never be more than 2 signs away from the sun and changes sign anywhere between every 15 to 60 days, depending on retrogrades. Mercury is not the only planet to retrograde, he just does it more often, so around about 3, sometimes 4 times a year, and because it's closer to us, it can tend to impact us a lot more. And not only that, because of the things that Mercury has rulership over, like we live in like a very modern society where like technology is everywhere, so Mercury's impact can really be felt and also like things like going to work, communications. In like a tough Mercury retrograde, it can just be quite a hard hitter because of what he governs and what he looks after, and because it kind of happens much more often and he's much closer to us, we're just much more aware of it. By the way, a retrograde is when a planet appears to be moving backwards. It's not actually moving backwards, it just appears this way to us from our viewpoint on Earth. So it takes Mercury around 80 days to complete an orbit. So the zodiac signs that Mercury rules over is Gemini and Virgo. I would personally say that the like vibe of Mercury is more similar to Gemini because they're both associated with the air element. So I feel like it manifests quite differently in Virgo, but definitely both still completely relevant. So Mercury is in its domicile in Gemini and Virgo. It's in its detriment in Sagittarius. It's exalted in Virgo, and it's in its fall in Pisces. And we described a little bit about what Mercury represents. It's communication, thought, self-expression, intellect, adaptability, logic, transport, travel, commerce. He is the quick-witted messenger of the gods, and he is able to travel easily between the physical and spiritual realms as well. So people often just think about Mercury, oh, it's technology and it's communication. It is like communication on all levels, so even on like a spiritual level as well. And this also shows like the adaptability of Mercury. Mercury, I keep saying it like that. Venus. So Venus is also never more than 2 signs away from the sun, and changes zodiac sign about every 23 days. Again, this can be longer due to retrogrades, which happen around every 18 months and last for about 6 weeks. And it takes Venus around 225 days to do a complete orbit. So Venus, we know her, we love her. She's all this kind of feminine, gorgeous energy, and she rules over the zodiac signs of Taurus and Libra. So Venus is in domicile in Taurus and Libra. It's in its detriment in Scorpio and Aries as well. It's exalted in Pisces and in its fall in Virgo. So Venus is of course associated with love, how we like to receive love and relationships, romantic relationships. It's also pleasure, sensuality, harmony, abundance and prosperity. Along with the moon, Venus is another side to the divine feminine. I see the moon as like a more kind of like esoteric, secret keeper, that kind of real like intuitive, subconscious energy, whereas I see Venus as the more like sensual, pleasurable, rich in abundance side of feminine energy. So I do feel like they manifest quite differently from one another. Mars. So Mars changes zodiac sign every 2 months unless it's retrograding, which happens every 26 months, and this can last for about 2.5 months, meaning that of course it can stay in a sign significantly longer. Mars is the counterpart to Venus, so if we think of her polar opposite, if she's like the free-flowing, feminine, balanced, harmonious energy, Mars is the masculine, aggressive, assertive, in your face kind of energy. So he is like a fiery lad's lad, and he rules over Aries and Scorpio. So that means that Mars has its domicile in Aries and Scorpio. It's in its detriment in Taurus and Libra. It's exalted in Capricorn and has its fall in Cancer. So as we said, Mars is assertion, aggression, passion, energy, fire, sex drive, how you attack, how you defend. So Mars is the god of war. So again, we want to be thinking about that archetype and all the things that fall under the umbrella of a fierce, headstrong, passionate warrior type. And that's going to tell us all we really need to know about what Mars is representing in your chart. It's also a really good way to understand the dignities as well. So you can see then why Mars wouldn't super enjoy being in Taurus, who is like a Venus ruled sign, like in Taurus, who wants to be like pleasurable and enjoy life's luxuries. You can understand how for Mars that would be frustrating when they are like that sign, that planet is all about like fire and aggression and assertion and this super like masculine, like forward moving energy. If it's in Taurus, which is like, I just want to chill out, man, and drink wine and have sex and have a good life, and that's it. And then we go on to the outer planets. So we have Jupiter. So Jupiter is the biggest planet. It's larger than life, just like its godly association of the same name. Jupiter changes sign every year, meaning that it takes around 12 years to do an entire orbit and make its way through the entire zodiac. So Jupiter retrogrades every 9 months and does so for approximately 4 months. Jupiter is again associated with being like a more masculine sign and rules over Sagittarius and Pisces. In modern astrology, what is actually wrong with me today? Like, I can't get my words straight. Like, the amount of times it's took me to film this short amount of video is actually a joke, because I need to keep repeating things over and over and over again. Oh my god! I don't know what the hell is wrong with me. My brain is literally like made of like mashed potato right now, or I don't know, I'm having a weird time. So what I was trying to say is, in modern astrology, Jupiter is heavily associated more with Sagittarius rather than Pisces, but I definitely think it has elements of both, and there's a reason that it rules over both. I think it's really because back in the day, before more modern technology, we could literally only see the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter and Saturn. So when Neptune came around and was like, surprise bitches, but you weren't expecting to see me, I'm fucking taking Pisces, everybody was like, okay, that makes sense. So Jupiter is in its domicile in Sagittarius and Pisces, its detriment in Gemini and Virgo, it's exalted in Cancer, and in its fall in Capricorn. So Jupiter is the king of the gods. He is all things good fortune, good luck, abundance, optimism, positivity, but he is also spirituality, adventure, higher learning, wisdom. And think of Zeus. He's obviously this like big king of the gods who lives on Mount Olympus with all he could ever desire, and a cornucopia, also known as the horn of plenty, that gives him all this like abundance, all the endless abundance that he could ever want. but he is also the highest spiritual being and the creator or co-creator of mortals and this kind of like ever-growing, ever-evolving, expanding being just like you. So expansion is a big word for Jupiter. Saturn. So going from Jupiter to Saturn is a real shock to the system. So Saturn is Jupiter's father, and what a strict, stern father he is. Saturn stays in a zodiac sign for about 2.5 years and takes just under 30 years to do a full orbit. So this is where everyone fears their Saturn return. If you've got a Saturn return that you're going through, or like you're freaking out about it coming up or whatever, honestly, it's all for the greater purpose of your soul and to make you better. It might not feel like it at the time, but it's all for your own good. Saturn also retrogrades every year for about 4.5 months. So Saturn is, again, thought to be like a more kind of masculine sign, and it rules over both Capricorn and Aquarius in more traditional astrology, and in more modern astrology, it's thought to be more of the ruler of Capricorn. So Saturn is in its domicile in Capricorn and Aquarius, its detriment in Cancer and Leo. It's exalted in Libra, and it's in its fall in Aries. And one thing about Saturn is he is not known for being the most fun at parties, you know? He's all about limitation, structure, rules, regulations, which is why when a Saturn return happens, it feels like the entire structure of your life has been torn apart. But this is here to show you the structures in your life that are weak and need a more steady, sturdy foundation. Saturn is also all about maturity, getting serious about shit. How are you evolving? Are you being disciplined in your growth and your development? Think about it. It comes at really pivotal points in like your life, like every like 29 or so years, 29, 30 years. So like when you think about like that time frame, like how much you're maturing and changing in that block of 30 years, Saturn's doing a check-in and is like, are you fucking, you know, are you doing stuff right? Uranus. I like to say it like Uranus rather than Uranus, or Uranus, because that sounds so disrespectful. Uranus stays in a single zodiac sign for 7 years and takes 84 years to get round the entire zodiac, and spends about 5 months of the year retrograding because it's a little fucking slow ass. Uranus can be considered to be a masculine planet if we're thinking about it from the mythology. So Uranus would be the sky father who kind of began creation with Mother Earth, who would be like the kind of feminine element. However, sometimes it's considered to be neither masculine nor feminine. Instead, it's embodying both of these energies at the same time, just like Aquarius, who it rules. So Uranus is in its domicile in Aquarius, its detriment in Leo, it's exalted in Scorpio, and it's in its fall in Taurus. Uranus is Saturn's father, and I feel like Jupiter took on the traits of his father and his grandfather both, because Uranus is all about innovation, change, rebellion, challenging the status quo, being transformative, and saying a big fuck you to conventional thinking. Like, if you think of over the course of 80 years and the huge cultural shifts that will happen in that time, how society changes and how old ways of thinking are challenged and changed, the world seems almost unrecognisable. So that's the Uranus impact. It brings on ideas that are seen as weird or quirky or strange and thinking way outside the box, but eventually these ideas will settle into society and become the norm, and then there will obviously always be more norms to be challenged. Neptune. So Neptune stays in a single zodiac sign for 14 years and takes 165 years to orbit them all. And I think it's because he's too busy daydreaming, stoned out his nut, sauntering along the ecliptic, not a fucking care in the world. He also retrogrades once a year for about 5 months. So Neptune in mythology would be associated with Poseidon, but I'd say like he has a way more fluid energy than Poseidon, you know? And he rules over Pisces. So Neptune is in its domicile in Pisces, of course, its detriment in Virgo, it's exalted in Leo, and it's in its fall in Aquarius. So Neptune is all about dreams, illusion, escapism, psychic abilities, fantasy, and intuition. It's a very ethereal, head in the clouds, dolly daydream kind of planet, which can be really cool and really fun, but it can also be full of confusion, hidden secrets, and deep fears. I always think of Neptune as being behind the veil of the other world. So you never know when you look behind that veil, you never know what you're gonna find behind there. And I always think as well that Neptune is not really something to be understood on like a logical level. It's all about that kind of like inner knowing. It's like more like intuitive and to be felt. Pluto. So Pluto was demoted to a dwarf planet and was once considered just a regular planet. I feel like they're always trying to do my boy Hades dirty. Like, give him a fucking break, man, honestly. Pluto, they can never make me hate you. Pluto stays in a single zodiac sign for anywhere between 12 and 30 years, depending on the sign. And it takes over 248 years to do a complete orbit. Pluto also retrogrades once a year for about half the year, and Pluto rules over Scorpio. Pluto is in its domicile in Scorpio, its detriment in Taurus, it's exalted in Aries, and it's in its fall in Libra. Pluto is all about death and rebirth, deep transformation. It also deals with taboos, secrets, obsessions, and power. Pluto is also unseen forces, so either mystical goings on or things to do with the subconscious mind, and even karma from past lives, as well as Hades is the king of the underworld, as we know. So that is it for the planets. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. If you have, please either like it if you're over on YouTube. If you're not over on YouTube, hop on over here and subscribe so that you can see my how to read a birth chart video, and leave a comment, leave a review, do whatever, and until next time, bye.